You could not explain it. Nothing was obviously wrong. There were no scenes, no shouting, no dramatic evidence you could show someone and say this is it. From the outside, everything looked stable. Conversations happened. Days passed. Life continued. And yet your body never fully relaxed. There was always a quiet tension under the surface. You kept scanning without realizing you were scanning. You replayed conversations long after they ended. You analyzed tone. You searched for hidden meaning in simple phrases. You wondered why your chest tightened in moments that looked completely ordinary. The confusion was constant. Why do I feel unsafe when nothing is happening? That question slowly began to consume you. Because if nothing was happening, then the problem must be you. That is how subtle narcissistic instability works. It does not explode. It erodes. It shifts slightly. Warmth becomes distance without explanation. Affection feels real but unpredictable. A small pause stretches longer than it should. A look lingers with something unspoken inside it. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to make you doubt your own perception. Your nervous system noticed the inconsistency before your mind could label it. The body reads patterns faster than logic does. And when patterns shift unpredictably, the body prepares for impact even if no impact comes. You were not crazy. You were responding. Safety is built on consistency. The nervous system relaxes when it knows what to expect. But unpredictability activates vigilance. Slowly you became more careful. You softened your tone. You explained yourself before being questioned. You apologized quickly to prevent tension. You monitored emotional weather. You watched for subtle changes in mood. You became skilled at reading small signals. Because small signals had consequences. Other people did not see this shift in you. They saw calm. They saw patience. They saw maturity. They did not see the constant calculation happening inside your mind. You called it growth. You told yourself relationships require work. But the work never seemed to end. There was no stable baseline to return to. Warmth would come back just enough to reset hope. And then distance would return again. This cycle created confusion. It kept you engaged. Because relief feels powerful after tension. The moment connection returned, your body exhaled. And that relief felt like love. But it was relief from instability, not proof of safety. Over time, you lost your internal reference point. You stopped trusting your reactions. You questioned whether your needs were reasonable. You minimized discomfort because it felt too small to justify leaving. But your body never stopped reacting. When there is no visible harm, the mind turns inward. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I expect too much. Maybe I need to heal more. You began working on yourself, regulating, communicating better, staying calm even when confused. You tried to become less reactive. You tried to shrink your needs, but shrinking never produced safety. It only produced exhaustion. Intermittent reinforcement deepens attachment. When warmth is unpredictable, it becomes addictive. The brain works harder to regain connection. You tried harder. You adapted faster. You forgave quicker. Because each return of affection felt like proof that things were improving. But the pattern never truly changed. The instability remained. The body remained vigilant. You were walking on eggshells without visible eggshells. You were adjusting constantly to avoid something you could not name. And that unnamed tension began shaping your identity. You became quieter, more cautious, more self-monitoring. You started believing the discomfort was a flaw inside you. That belief kept you inside the cycle longer than any dramatic abuse ever could. Because you cannot escape something you cannot clearly see. Awareness does not arrive dramatically. It arrives quietly. One day you notice how tired you are. Not physically tired, nervous system tired. You realize you are not tense everywhere, only there. You notice how your body feels different in safe environments, how your breath deepens, how your shoulders drop. The contrast becomes impossible to ignore. The problem was not your sensitivity, it was the instability. When you step back even slightly, the fog begins to lift. Patterns become visible. The distance after vulnerability, the subtle dismissal of your concerns, the shift in tone when you expressed a boundary. You see how often you minimized your own discomfort. You see how much energy was spent maintaining equilibrium, and you begin to understand something powerful. Your body was not sabotaging you. It was informing you. The anxiety was not weakness. It was data. The hyper-awareness was protection. You were adapting to unpredictability. Once you allow that truth to settle, the self-blame begins to dissolve. Compassion replaces criticism. You were trying to survive a pattern that never stabilized. Healing begins with recalibration. Safety feels steady. It feels predictable. It feels almost boring compared to fluctuation. At first, calm may feel unfamiliar. You might search for tension because tension became normal. But gradually, your nervous system relearns rest. When someone says they will call and they call, when disagreement does not threaten connection, when expressing a need does not result in withdrawal, these small consistencies rebuild trust internally. You stop scanning. You stop rehearsing. You stop shrinking. You exist without bracing, and in that stillness, clarity strengthens. Subtle instability was still instability. Confusion was still information. Exhaustion was not personal failure. It was response to unpredictability. If it looked normal but never felt safe, that feeling mattered. Your body recognized patterns long before your mind found language. Trusting that recognition is how regulation returns. Calm is not emptiness. It is safety, and safety is steady.